Hello to all astrology enthusiasts. In this video, I want to discuss the transit of the Sun through the zodiac sign Taurus. And the Sun poem changed its sign on April 19th, 2025 at 10:55 p.m., opening a completely new season of energy for each of us. Well, before we discuss the features of this transit and the significant aspects the Sun will make during this transit, let's generally talk about what these energies are, the energies of Taurus, and how they manifest in our lives. I will immediately note that the zodiac sign Taurus is primarily about stability and materiality in our lives. And here, as the Sun transits through this zodiac sign, it activates and brings these stable, practical, and grounding energies. Of course, they are significantly different from the energies of Aries, which were present in the previous season. And now is the time when we shift our focus from ideas, those Aries-like impulses, to the theme of stability, the theme of comfort, physical presence. That is, it's all about values, it's all about materiality, about such stability, support. And of course, here the Sun, considering that it is responsible for our ego, our motivation, our will and personality being in this sign, undoubtedly shifts our focus to stability, specifically in the material world. And our attention will be directed towards money, resources, incomes, finances, ensuring comfort, ensuring security. Here, physical pleasures, material pleasures will come to the forefront. That is, this includes food, scents, certain textures, and some sensual enjoyments. Here, the theme of reliability comes to the forefront. It's all about stability, about such a slow movement forward, but very, very stable. And overall, it's an excellent period for accumulating resources, investing in quality, building, creating, and strengthening the foundation. This can relate to business, everyday life, home, health, and personal relationships. All of this is provided by the energies of Taurus and the direct presence of the Sun in this zodiac sign. In general, for the Taurus sign, haste is very foreign. That is, Taurus always chooses slowly but surely. And here the energies are just favorable for slowing down and diving deep, especially in everything related to the bodily, physical. It's very good to engage in mindful relaxation, some relaxing practices, do yoga, for example, or go out into nature, enjoy nature itself, food, massage, take care of the body, pay attention specifically to the body's rhythms, into the rhythms of nature, so that everything aligns. And it's also good to work with your values during this transit. Because the Sun in Taurus precisely raises the topic and question of what is truly valuable to me, what I spend my time, energy, and money on. Does my lifestyle actually correspond to my inner values? Here, questions of self-esteem may arise, undoubtedly personal value. And one, we ask ourselves how much I value myself. Do I accept, for example, a fair payment for my services, for my work? And am I not sacrificing something in my life for some kind of, let's say, pseudo-stability? All of this will come to the forefront. And in fact, it's a good time to launch long-term projects, especially financial ones. It's very good to buy real estate, land, luxury items, organize your finances, household, restore your health, reestablish your diet, sleep schedule, and engage in some physical practices. All of this can be done during this transit. Another interesting aspect I want to note is that Taurus is ruled by Venus, the planet Venus. And here the theme of creativity and aesthetics will be highlighted. During this transit, we will feel an increased attraction to beauty, aesthetics, and art. We tend to surround ourselves more with pleasant, cozy, and beautiful things. A very productive time for artists, the designers, the chefs, and perfumers. That is, people who create something very beautiful and very original. And what is also important to understand is that the sun, the transiting sun in Taurus, will create situations in our lives that are related to the need for strengthening, simplifying, and materializing. For example, in the field of work and career, this could be a new offer for a more stable position, or a transition to a company with completely different values that suit you. Or the focus here might be on long-term projects, or there might be a reevaluation of the current workplace, for instance, in terms of income and reliability. In relationships, for example, the transit may create situations where the partnership will require confirmation of serious intentions, or the demonstration of care in practice, or the establishment of a shared household, or the resolution of financial issues. For instance, at the health level, the transit may actually cause a significant slowdown for the entire body. That is, there is a desire to feel satiated, to get enough sleep, to slow down, to replenish one's energy, whether through nutrition, certain practices, sports, or sleep. If we are talking about financial matters, then of course, the topics of income and investments will come to the forefront. Moreover, there will be a desire to invest in something worthwhile. Or here's the topic might be about purchasing real estate, land, or any items that bring us comfort. Alternatively, on the downside, it could lead to a crisis. For example, if our values do not align with certain aspects related to the financial sphere. In creativity, for instance, the sun in Taurus may manifest as a desire to create, slowly, consciously, with an emphasis on form and beauty. And therefore, this period is very favorable for artists and designers. In business, for example, the focus will be on quality, the reliability of partnerships and building a stable client base. And if we talk about the spiritual sphere of life, then of course there will be a desire for silence. There will be a desire to be present in the moment, to enjoy some simple pleasures of life. That is, this is a time when life may present situations that test our maturity, our ability to be here and now, to build something enduring. This could involve relationships. It could be the home, the atmosphere within the home, or even our psychological state in general. What I also want to draw attention to is that this transit is governed by, more precisely, the zodiac sign, Taurus, Venus. And I'll remind you that Venus came out of retrograde literally in mid-April. And during this period, it gave us the opportunity to rethink and reassess what we truly want in our personal relationships, feelings, love, money, comfort, and matters of beauty. And right now, when the sun is in Taurus, Venus is in conjunction with Saturn, the planet of karma, the planet of materialization. And here the karmic node of the future is also present, a very interesting aspect. And we need to understand that right now, with this aspect, a completely new concept and structure of our relationships and our financial sphere of life is being laid down. Taurus in general, symbolically, corresponds to the second house of the horoscope. This is the house of values, the house of resources, our self-esteem, and material support. And it shows how we earn, what we consider valuable, how we manage our finances, and how well we can create stability in our lives. And it's not just about money, it's about inner support. It's about the sense of one's own value. It's about the ability to rely on one's talents and abilities, through which we can also earn in life. Here, the attitude towards ownership, comfort, and the body is revealed. Here, financial habits that allow us, for example, to save money, or how we spend this money will come to the forefront. The second house also indicates what means we can use to sustain ourselves. That is how well we can monetize our abilities and earn through them. And here, through the second house, we can also see how we feel secure, how we demonstrate our practicality in life, and what forms of energy we specifically use to develop our financial sphere and financial well-being. Well, now I suggest we consider the significant aspects that the sun will make throughout its transit through the zodiac sign of Taurus, and how they will manifest in our lives, through which situations and life areas. And afterwards we will discuss, for all 12 zodiac signs, in which house of the horoscope and which area of life this transit will affect. So the sun begins its transit in the zodiac sign of Taurus, with 2 squares and oppositions right away. These are the 3 aspects. And one of the squares is a square with Mars in Leo. Mars has also moved into another sign. And here this square will create a very tense dynamic, activating conflicts between our personal ambitions and our desire to express ourselves. In general, both the Sun and Mars are 2 personal planets, very lively and organic. And here the Sun in Taurus focuses our attention on stability, on material values, as I mentioned, on practicality. But Mars in Leo strives for very bright self-expression, leadership, and creative manifestation. So in some ways there is a connection, but they are in a disharmonious aspect. The square aspect can create situations where this desire for stability, the wish to follow the plan, so to speak, conflicts with this rebellious, impulsive desire to express one's individuality or achieve recognition. In personal relationships or at work, a clash of interests is possible. That is, when we and other people try to take on a leadership position, insist on our point of view, and this is where the clash occurs. Difficulties may arise in achieving goals when we need to balance these personal ambitions with real practical needs. There may be situations where efforts are needed to find a balance between the desire to act and the necessity to act consistently, methodically, as per the Sun in Taurus. Here, it is necessary to control one's inner aggression or any tense emotions, because this can, in addition to causing clashes, lead to mistakes and misunderstandings in relationships. All of this can be caused by this aspect. Here, a more powerful aspect is added, the square of the Sun in Taurus with Pluto in Aquarius. We know that Pluto is the most powerful, energetically potent planet that transforms our lives very radically. And the Sun being in a square with Pluto will again create a very tense dynamic where it will clash with our desire for stability and the preservation of our status quo, yes, with the necessity for transformation, such changes and alterations in our lives. Because Pluto it destroys everything in our lives that has outlived its usefulness and wants to create entirely new structures. And of course, when we have the sun activated in Taurus, so to speak, it focuses us on material security, on certain conservative values, on some stable foundations. But Pluto in Aquarius, especially considering that Aquarius is a sign about freedom first and foremost, brings about deep changes here, destroys these structures, these aspirations of ours, so to speak, and demands freedom from certain conservative or traditional ways of living our lives. The aspect can create situations where our need for security and comfort comes into conflict with sudden, powerful desires to change our life or certain approaches to life. This can pertain to personal areas, professional life, and social issues. We may encounter an internal conflict when we feel that in order to move forward, we need to free ourselves from old beliefs, certain limitations, and fears, especially the fear of losing some stability. Or we are not ready for these changes. And here, the aspect provides an opportunity to globally reassess everything happening in our lives. We may find ourselves in a situation where old structures, habits, or even relationships are subjected to the pressure of transformation. This can be very painful according to Pluto, undoubtedly. But it is necessary for further growth. The aspect can generally cause conflicts with others in the context of power, control, and personal boundaries. That is, the aspect should generally be used to free yourself from everything that hinders your, development, so to speak. And to this, the opposition of the Sun in Taurus and the Black Moon in Scorpio will also be added. Besides this, I also mentioned that we currently have the Grand Cross activated. A very fateful period for us until the end of April, with very intense energies. This is a large square. Pluto in Aquarius is involved here, as well as the Sun in Taurus, the Black Moon in Scorpio, and Mars in Leo. And all these energies are in conflict with each other. They are simply tearing us apart. And of course, the opposition of the Sun and the Black Moon undoubtedly presents us with situations that fundamentally question our values and some of our true desires. After all, the Black Moon tempts us, and the Sun in Taurus again emphasizes our focus on stability and security. And the Black Moon also in Scorpio touches precisely on the hidden shadow sides of our personality. It uncovers our fears and some unconscious motivations. Everything related to themes of power, control, transformation, all of this comes to the surface. And in such moments, we may encounter a large number of internal contradictions. The desire to maintain stability and confidence clashes with the necessity to delve deeper, to explore more complex aspects of our personality, which are connected to suppressed emotions, certain traumas, or hidden desires. This can manifest in relationships, personal life, and professional sphere through conflicts or uncertainty when we feel that something within us needs to change. But we are kind of afraid to lose control. We are afraid of losing this sense of security. And this aspect encourages us to delve into self-discovery, to bring these hidden desires and fears to the surface, to work through them, and ultimately to change this internal approach to life. And I would also like to draw your attention to the activation of the Grand Cross, so to speak, which is active for us from the 18th to the 30th of April. And how can it manifest? How can these energies work in our lives? Well, firstly, if we touch on the topic of work and career, there can be very intense conflicts with management and colleagues due to struggles for influence or recognition. You might encounter a situation where someone wants to push you out of, let's say, a leadership position. There can be situations involving ultimatums. Either you need to adapt or you need to leave. And the Sun in Taurus desires stability. But all of this is disrupted by these energies. If we talk about personal life, themes of intense jealousy, hidden dependencies and control, games related to the Black Moon in Scorpio may surface. For example, a partner might start to manipulate, test resilience and push boundaries. And Mars in Leo might flare up in response and declare that such treatment is unacceptable and will not be tolerated. This can also manifest as an explosion of passion or a destructive breakup. These energies can lead to such situations. If we talk about finances and resources, there is an increased risk of losses due to some wrong decisions or investments, especially if there is a desire for quick profit. The Sun in Taurus seeks stability, but the Black Moon provokes us towards easy money. Moreover, Pluto adds involvement in some collective processes, but very opaque, non-transparent schemes. As a result, there is a struggle for control and distrust. Some financial losses are possible. All of this is provided by the energies of the Grand Cross. If we talk about the body and psyche, there is definitely an overload of the nervous system, especially if a person has emotions of anger or avoids confrontation or lives to the limit. All of this will now be activated. Psychosomatic manifestations may occur. The Black Moon in Scorpio can also lead to depressive states. Moreover, if we do not acknowledge but work through or experience these states, they are suppressed, and all of this accumulates inside. If we talk about the social context, there may be situations where we can become participants in some acute public conflict, especially if we hold a prominent leadership position and, as it were, challenge some significant structures like organizations or management. And this could be a situation where, well, a rebel is on the throne, so to speak. That is, we can either lose everything or, on the contrary, become a catalyst for some major changes. I also want to add that there will be an additional layer of energies at work here when the Sun is in harmonious aspects with the fixed star Sinistra and the star Regulus. And still, considering that these are harmonious aspects, they will be trines. Accordingly, we have Sinistra in Sagittarius, Regulus in Virgo. They will create a very powerful flow of harmonious and very purposeful energy, which can bring us well-deserved recognition, especially if we act very honestly, with dignity and confidence in our values. Plus, the star Regulus here enhances our leadership qualities. It gives us a chance to rise in status, or receive high praise from influential figures, for example. At the same time, it is important to have purity of intentions. Any attempts at manipulation or the desire to step over others will lead to a downfall. Therefore, this energy needs to be felt and used to our advantage. If we talk about the star Sinistra, it gives us additional courage to be direct, speak the truth, and defend our moral principles, especially in those areas or issues where it was really difficult to assert ourselves before. And as a result, situations may arise where we can gain, for example, weight or ni or authority in certain situations precisely because of our firm yet environmentally friendly approach. There may be situations involving public speaking, promotions at work, fulfilling an important mission, or establishing oneself as a leader. And most importantly, the opportunity to remain true to oneself opens up. On April 23rd, we have a trine of the Sun in Taurus with the retrograde asteroid Pholus in Capricorn. And this aspect may manifest or create situations where old, postponed themes of responsibility, leadership, and power suddenly come into play. Themes we were not ready for before, and now is the perfect time to bring them to light. In other words, the aspect can activate such hidden talents, some, truly wild resources within us that have not been used for a very long time. For example, suddenly there might be an opportunity to take on leadership of a project, solve a complex professional challenge, or return to ambitions that previously seemed impossible to us. But now is the perfect time to activate and start realizing them. Retrograde fall can symbolize an inner wise, savage, so to speak, who urges us to act very unconventionally yet thoroughly, especially in areas where a personal example is needed, endurance is required, and a strategic approach is necessary. This could be a period when we unexpectedly realize our personal strength. We decide to play by our own rules while remaining respectful towards our experience and structures, both our own and those of others. And it's important to note that from April 24th, the squares will start to diminish, while the trine with fall will gain strength. Therefore, it's certainly better to use this energy to our advantage. In general, April is certainly filled, especially the second half of April, with very intense energies. And from April 26th, the Sun will begin to form another opposition with the retrograde asteroid, Vesta in Scorpio. And this aspect will create either an internal or external conflict between the desire to live peacefully, enjoy stability, bodily pleasures, and a deep, almost fanatical devotion to some cause, person, or some internal personal mission that demands, a complete renunciation of anything else. That is, this may manifest, for example, in situations where we suddenly realize that in order to maintain a relationship or project, we need to sacrifice some resources, comfort or physical well-being. And we ask ourselves, is it worth it? Right? In other words, is the game worth the candle? And in relationships, there may be scenarios where one partner demands all or nothing, while the other wants to maintain personal boundaries or simply enjoy some simple earthly pleasures. Tension may arise between professional, dedication and the need, so to speak, for the same material stability. The aspect generally guides us to seek a balance between this everyday life and what burns inside us, what we want to pursue. At the same time, it's a balance to ensure we don't burn out in either one. On April 27th, 2025, we are expecting a new moon in the zodiac sign of Taurus, where the Sun is a direct participant. in the astrological event. And of course, the new moon lays the groundwork for initiating specific, tangible changes in our material sphere. This marks the beginning of long-term financial projects, investments, real estate purchases, changes in diet, body care, the formation of new habits. Everything aimed at stability and comfort. A time when we suddenly feel a very acute need for stability and begin to take action. For example, you can open a savings account, negotiate a raise, change to a more reliable job, move to a calmer place, reassess your expenses, and actually spend on what brings joy. In relationships, the new moon in Taurus can encourage the creation of a solid foundation, meaning truly reliable relationships. Joint finances, household matters, and future planning might also be discussed. If we talk about the physical aspect, the body, the focus here is on sensuality, self-care, and slowing down everyday life. And everything that is sown during this new moon will grow slowly, but very firmly. And here, the main thing is that it should be enjoyable, real, tangible, and with a great deal of self-love. On May 4th, the Sun will form a sextile with the star Sirius, which is located in the zodiac sign of Cancer. And a sextile, let me remind you, is an energy that you need to catch, feel, and somehow apply it in your life. The aspect itself will create an opportunity for such a breakthrough, yes, which will be very inspiring in our lives, precisely through the expression of care, generosity, and loyalty. And the aspect can generally provide us with support from an influential figure or from family, especially where there is sincerity, where actions are done with heart. There may be situations where very simple actions, caring for loved ones, helping parents, investing in a family business, will bring unexpected success or open a completely new door of opportunities. This can also be an opportunity to express oneself through creativity, through taste, through cooking, or through creating something in one's home. Everything related to the theme of care and beauty. Sirius precisely amplifies this energy, the energy of some kind of inner mission. And what is important? It is important to act from pure motives, to be generous, to rid oneself of vanity. And of course, if this aspect is applied and lived correctly, it can bring both recognition and some financial income. Everything that is done from the heart, out of kindness, can indeed work in your favor. From May 7th, the Sun in Taurus will form a square with the asteroid Pallas in Aquarius. And this aspect, of course, will already give us a certain tension between our desire for stability, practicality, and the necessity to think strategically, unconventionally, and sometimes even revolutionarily, right? Because these are Aquarian energies. Pallas is located here. We might find ourselves in situations where our logic or our usual approach conflicts with the demands of society or the demands of the team, or in anything related to technology. For example, at work, situations may arise where it's necessary to urgently implement something, say some digital solutions, or participate in a group project with a chaotic structure, right? But this will cause resistance. Why change something if it works? Therefore, there may be conflicts with very knowledgeable and intelligent people, but who are very emotionally cold. These could be strategist type people, it's specialists or leaders of some innovative directions. And the conflict, of course, arises due to different approaches to certain tasks. This is if we are talking about the professional sphere. Here, there is a breaking of stereotypes. The message here is don't be afraid to think differently. You need to step out of your comfort zone. May 8th, there is another interesting aspect, which is the Sun making an aspect to the South Karmic node in Virgo. And this will be a trine that activates situations in our lives where we receive some kind of reward for our past efforts, for some work, for some services, for discipline, especially if it concerns the professional sphere or some financial matters. Here, there may be a return to some skills that, previously seemed mundane, and now they can bring benefits to our lives. That is, for example, an older profession or some experience in administration or the ability to organize certain processes. There may be job offers from former colleagues, a return to some old project or client. There is a reevaluation of very significant habitual activities. And this can be a moment when we suddenly realize that the routine or certain actions that we have been performing automatically for a long time are actually our personal foundation of reliability and stability in life. And the aspect provides an opportunity to complete some long-standing process or cycle, to put things in order, for example, in everyday life or in documents, because after all, these are the energies of Virgo. And the South Node speaks of some accumulated experience. And based on this, to start something new in life. But here, this karmic, so to speak, debt will be dissipated. Yes, it will no longer be at the foundation. And in addition, there will be an opposition to the retrograde asteroid Juno, which has returned to Scorpio. And this opposition may manifest during this period as acute tension in partnerships, where our needs for stability, comfort, sensuality, so to speak, will clash with our deeper emotional expectations, or some past grievances, or simply jealousy. After all, Juno is in Scorpio. Situations may involve the return of old partnership issues. For example, it may be necessary to discuss some unresolved issues of commitments, fidelity, financial distribution, or topics of power in relationships, control. There may be a feeling that the partner is demanding too much from us or emotionally manipulating us, while the other wants silence, peace, some comfort in the relationship. And of course, this aspect raises the question of how honest and balanced this union is overall. And where are the boundaries? Where are the personal boundaries? And where does such, absorption occur? Therefore, it would be good to have honest conversations, dialogues, and bring everything that has been kept silent to the surface. On May 9th, 2025, we are expecting one of the very significant aspects of May and the conjunction of the Sun with the planet Uranus in Taurus. And of course, the energies are very powerful, very unpredictable, chaotic. And the conjunction itself, the aspect of conjunction in general, always gives us some real sequence of events that occur in our lives. And it will create very sudden and unexpected changes. This will particularly relate to the themes of our finances and our comfort and stability, an aspect where super unplanned events are possible, which will break down some of our old structures, habits, and open up with new opportunities for personal freedom and self-expression. For example, we might unexpectedly gain profit or unexpectedly lose money or radically change our lifestyle. For instance, start a business, change jobs, make an important purchase, or change our overall attitude towards money-related matters, for example. And in personal relationships, there may be a desire to get rid of some old limitations, certain behavior patterns, and break this connection with a routine life in order to gain some super progressive experience. Progressive, here the awakening of intuition is also possible at this conjunction. A very bright insight, because after all, the planet Uranus is involved. And this will all relate specifically to our needs and desires. And I will say that the exact conjunction awaits us on May 18th. That is during this entire period. The aspect will be gaining. On May 12th, 2025, we are expecting a full moon in Scorpio with the board Sun in Taurus. And here, the full moon will create very intense emotional climaxes in completely different areas of our lives, which are precisely related to themes of power, transformations, sexuality, and control. A time when all our old emotional ties will simply burn away, and some secrets will come to light. After all, this is a full moon. Something will become very clear, very understandable. And there may be tensions in relationships, especially if one partner is trying to hold on to power, trying to manipulate or hide something important. That is, it could be a moment when someone finally decides to speak out about some hidden grievances, unpleasant situations or debts. And all this will lead, of course, to cleansing, but at the same time to destruction. But something needs to be destroyed for the new to come. For example, in the professional sphere, a full moon in Scorpio can create or trigger a crisis situation, a crisis point, where you need to either deal with some internal fears related to career and finance topics, or you need to repay some debt. It's a very good time to free yourself from these worries, hidden passions, dependencies, and debts. And all of this will open up a completely new space for such deep changes, for rebirth, personal rebirth in the future. On May 14th, the Sun forms two sextiles, two harmonious aspects with the planet Saturn and the asteroid Ceres, which are in Pisces, both located in the 29th to 30th degrees of Pisces. They create moments and opportunities to structure something in our lives and to show care in this direction. This can relate to any sphere, personal, professional, or social. And here, the Sun in Taurus with a sextile to Saturn can provide increased inspiration for working on some long-term projects that require patience, responsibility, and offer the opportunity to rely on some experience and knowledge that we possess. And this can again manifest in any sphere, both in professional and personal relationships. But there, a disciplined approach will be needed. What does the asteroid series bring here? It precisely adds the aspect of care, the aspect of deep empathy, support. And it is precisely on this aspect that we can find ways to help both ourselves and other people, either to heal some emotional, spiritual wounds, or to engage in some social work. It's a very good time to maintain relationships with family, with close people, and to focus specifically on emotional interaction. The aspect itself actually helps us combine our personal pragmatism and our sensitivity, and it provides the opportunity to both plan and realize some of our aspirations. So, to speak in the long term consistently according to Saturn, while at the same time showing support and care. On May 16th, a trine from the Sun in Taurus to Pluto in Aquarius opens up, a very harmonious aspect, and it activates such a powerful wave of our inner strength, our influence. And that is, we have the opportunity to change and transform many situations and things around us thanks to this aspect. It gives us the opportunity to strengthen our position, especially if it concerns professional life or personal relationships or some kind of public activity. And it gives us a calm, confident stance here, persistence, and the manifestation of our strategic thinking. It kind of activates such states within us. And situations may arise where we can take control of an important task, project, or strengthen something in our lives. This can again relate to any sphere, but very calmly, and achieve such a powerful effect from our actions. Our influence in this aspect increases. We present ourselves more confidently, steadily, let's say, reliably. Here, by the way, some proposals from influential people may appear, or some changes might occur in business, or there could be significant investments, or the completion of a very long process. The main thing here is to use this personal power wisely, not to suppress others, but rather to transform and to achieve a win-win effect, so to speak, so that everyone benefits. Well, what I want to note is that all aspects, especially to the higher social planets, unfold very slowly. These are energies that manifest in our lives not over the course of a day or even a week. That is, these are long-term situations. Therefore, it's important to monitor how this is happening, yes. To understand which areas of life are affected, we look at the transits of these social and higher planets, in which houses of the horoscope they occur specifically in our personal natal. On May 17th, 2025, we have a sextile of the Sun in Taurus with Neptune in Aries. And the sextile creates a very subtle yet very powerful impulse for actions that are based precisely on our dreams or intuition. At the same time, with a very firm understanding of what we want. That is the aspect. Considering that Taurus is about practicality and Neptune in Aries is about enlightenment. It's about images of the future. And these are completely new energies in our lives. And the aspect can create situations where we decide, for example, to implement some creative or adventurous plan in our lives. But we do it not on emotions, we do it through clear actions. For example, opening some kind of art business, launching a charitable project, filming a movie, working with music, for instance. There may be moments here when clarity emerges regarding what previously seemed very vague. This may seem related to personal development paths, concerning personal development paths and themes of leadership in our lives, or some form of self-determination. The aspect is suitable for such a gentle yet confident start in something. And it kind of gives us a vision of this meaning, why we are doing it. Basically, that's all the information I have for you regarding the transit of the Sun in Taurus. On May 20th, the Sun will move into the sign of Gemini, and we will discuss this in additional videos on the channel. We will also talk about the transit of the Sun in Taurus for the 12 zodiac signs in a separate video. I wish you success. Subscribe, like, share this video, and use these energies to your advantage. See you